Greetings peeps, it's time for Dan here to review and analyze another episode of RWBY for you today. After a week off following the high energy episode previously, the RWBY team are back. There was a lore video on Dust as well as a live stream where they answered some questions and the like, and while I was tempted to do a video on either, I think each are best viewed as it was, especially the Dust episode as it was kinda short. That, and I've been knee deep in Tales of Xillia too, so if you haven't, I'll link you to both down below. Chances are I will reference them though if the need arises in later reviews, but for now the show and myself are back from a break. So, let's dive in. Last time we had the RWBY girls along with Sun and Neptune attempt to investigate the White Fang's actions and what might be their next move. Ended up with some information but mostly having to deal with a stolen Atlas mech. So, back to Beacon, what's next for our heroes? Spoilers ahead folks, arm yourselves if you wish to battle on without a care, but be warned. We open with something I didn't expect. I was dead set thinking we'd see the backlash from Ozpin or Glinda to the RWBY girls for causing a massive wreck in Vale, but I guess their different clothes must have masked them enough from getting caught, or perhaps Ozpin is very lenient because we're actually opening with a different Beacon girl, Pyrrha. After a rather nicely edited short montage, we see Pyrrha taking on Team Cardinal 4-on-1, and honestly, it's top quality stuff. This is one of the few times we've seen someone not in Team RWBY get their hands dirty on their own, and to finally see a lot of Pyrrha in combat is welcomed, as out of her, Ren, Yang, and Nora, they were all massively under-focused in Volume 1, more often playing the side-focused or just reacting to everything that's going on around them. But here we got to see proof of the level of skill that she has as a fighter, and why she's seen as a star athlete in some amazingly choreographed combat. Team Cardinal actually surprised me too in how well they did. They too got massively underplayed, but that was more for the role that they were played through the bully arc, and this is the first time seeing them in actual combat. In the end, it kinda doesn't go much good for them though, as they are the equivalent of a Los Matadores fighting John Cena in this contest. But again, it is nice to see that they can hold themselves decently in a fight. The fight actually turns out to be a sparring match as a warm-up leading into the tournament, as we see the students in Glinda are looking on. We do get one more contest though, that coming from Mercury Black wanting a piece of Pyrrha. For those who saw the preview of this fight from a recent Rooster Teeth charity stream, you'll know a little bit of how this fight goes for at least the opening portions, but this in full is still a rather exciting one-to-one battle. Instead of the fast chopped up and wild fight of the 4 Cardinal boys going up against the Redhead, this fight has the same pace, but a lot more of a tactical and slick approach, especially for Mercury's nimbleness and agility. And we're given a chance to zoom in and slow down so we can see the blows in more detail, coming into play as we see that Pyrrha uses at one point her polarity semblance to hold off one of Merc's kicks going into her head. Merc himself seems to be content though, and gives up, much to the surprise of a lot present. It's clear judging by Mercury's attitude that maybe he wasn't in mind to win the fight, but we'll come to that later. Instead, we see that the RWBY girls head on outside, where if you notice, there's also Sun and Neptune, as well as the first shot of their teammates, Sage and Scarlet, though we don't see them make their presence known as terms of speaking and, that sort of thing. But it is cool that they are around, as I did find it odd that only Sun and Neptune were here for the events, and not the team as a whole. Sun's appearance has a reason though, as he looks to ask out Blake for the dance the upcoming weekend. And straight away, it's clear that Blake is not looking too hot. Bags under her eyes, a staggered pose and walk, and her tone screams far from pleasant. Not only turning down Sun's invitation, but also slamming him for even wanting to go to the dance in the first place. Clearly the White Fang weighing on her mind to breaking point. The rest of her team sees this and try to win her over to let her hair down, relax and enjoy the dance, to give herself a chance to cool down from the investigation. We also get a name drop of Team Coffee, Velvet's team, who are apparently away on a mission right now, and we also hear some mention of Yang and Weiss having some role in the dance. My guess is as performers. Their attempts fall flat as Blake won't even give herself a day off. Just when it seems like the four are on the same page, it looks like Blake's fears have gotten to her once again, and in the worst way seen so far. Either she'll finally give herself a chance to breathe, or she'll more than likely explode, and God knows if that will cause more tears in the team, or the Faunus herself having a major breakdown. And speaking of having some bad luck, Jean tries again to win Weiss over in a admittedly funny bit of serenading, but once more, the goofball just can't seem to get the Ice Queen to give him a chance. I'd say break out the dance moves. Might work. Weiss though mentions that she has someone in mind for the dance anyway. Chances are this is Neptune, but it'll be interesting to see if that turns out as she plans. The dude does seem to be a bit of a playboy, and even though he has flirted with her in the past, that doesn't mean that he's gonna accept her invitation, or could easily have been taken by now. Jean has been busy more than just trying to strum a guitar, as cutting forward, we're back to the familiar setting of him and Pyrrha on top of the dorm roofs, for a bit of Jean's training. It's cool to see a snippet of Jean training and actually getting better, and Pyrrha herself mentions that Jean is coming along well in using his sword, and that they've also tried or looked into Jean's semblance power. Granted, it would have been nice to see such progress in action, but chances are that's being saved for a more pressing need. It might be for the best though, as the blonde-haired boy is still feeling the sting from Weiss's latest shutdown, of probably his most boldest attempt to attract her, blowing up in his face once again, and is down with his luck about the girl and his, I'd say, poor attempts to try and win her over. Not quite noticing that maybe his fighting tutor might be willing to go with him. Dude's seriously slow on the uptake. This scene all but confirms that Pyrrha has an attraction to, or at least a strong liking to Jean, yet like the young teenage boy that he is, he's just not seeing the signs that we can as the viewer. It's annoying to see, especially when it's short of a big neon sign saying, "This girl has the hots for you," to make it clearer, but given it's natural for a lot of people that age and some lacking in confidence, it's kind of understandable, even relatable to someone like me, for instance. Hopefully with the dance looming, he might get some better luck, but who knows. There are some people out there having some progress today, and sadly, it's the bad guys, as we see Cinder's lot maul over the other students, especially Miss Nikos. From the sounds of it, Mercury was using their fight as a scouting opportunity, the three of them now fully aware of how she uses her semblance in combat as a trump card, and that she doesn't broadcast it as someone like Yang's semblance is, to keep an advantage over her enemy. Cinder finds into her liking and mentions to Emerald to add her to a list, and hints to her next step of the plans, depowering her foes. She could be meaning to take those she deems worthy into her numbers, or flat out eliminating them, but it's clear that them being on the inside is paying off, as now they seem to be planning out how to cripple those against them, ending the episode with Cinder once more spouting a menacing smile, with what looks like a sewing needle in hand. No idea if this is the hint to something, but it does make me think more about that Dust Lore episode and the mention of dust-infused clothing. Coincidence? Rundown of my pluses and minuses now, the positives and negatives of this episode. Negatives as usual first, and there's not too much that's not the usual mentions of some animation issues, which from now on I will refrain from mentioning unless it's a massive issue. I will say that I would have liked to have seen more of Jean and Pyrrha training, as I think it ended a bit too short, and it didn't give me a good enough hint of Jean's progress. And I also think that Jean flirting with Weiss might have reached its max potential now. It's a good running bit of humor, and I'm not against it being used in the future, but it's clear that we might be getting some romantic stuff with the boy and Pyrrha, that I'm hoping that his attempts with Weiss won't be overplayed, especially since he all but flat out confessed his dying love to her with the guitar. Not to mention the fact that their chemistry as a romantic side of things isn't really strong, it's more so just the klutzy nice guy digging the noble heiress. And before you ask, no, I'm not bashing the two as a possible pairing or as a shipping, just I don't want the joke of Jean's failed attempts with the Ice Queen to run past its limit and get boring. Also, with the RWBY girls getting told by Ozpin not to get involved, I would have liked to have seen some form of backlash, even just a little. Ozpin's getting a bit of a bad reputation about him wanting to protect his students from getting involved as being too lenient. From a fight on the docks, to busting up the school itself, to a fight through Vale, he's not giving them some form of punishment, which kinda harms him as a headmaster, and it also doesn't give a sense of repercussions to the actions of the girls' investigations, at least in terms of their school and their training. Also, where the hell was Nora and Ren? Positives up now, and the first note is, I'm glad we got to see more of Pyrrha take center stage here. Her combat talent has always been mentioned more than shown, and here we finally got to see a large example of why she's seen as one of, if not the best fighter at Beacon. And she also gets a chance to play the central role in an episode. Her drama with Jean does interest me, and has me hooked to see what's next come the dance. Also, I liked how the episode was balanced, with the overarching plot and the threat ahead, Cinder's actions, and the stuff with the Vital Festival and Jean's troubles. If this was Volume 1, chances are this episode would have ended at Sun getting shot down, and then the next episode starting with Blake turning down the offer from the girls. It's probably the best showing so far in terms of social interactions of the benefit of the longer runtimes in this volume. And say it with me now, some more excellent fighting animations. I think the quality of the various number games action over Pyrrha really shows the skill of not just the fighters themselves, be it for better or worse, but also how great the RWBY team are in combat actions. Especially in this case where we, as I said before, finally see Pyrrha's strength. This episode also belongs to her and Blake, who also share my voice acting praises, in how well Jen and Aaron bring out their roles' varying emotions in this episode. So yeah, it wasn't the route that I expected the episode following Painting the Town would be, but with what we got, with some good showings on a character that needed to showcase her stuff, not to mention some more interesting drama with both the good and the bad side of this world, mixed in with a bit of nuts from one big nuthead with his own issues. It seems like next week will be suited up for a bit of dancing, which I can only imagine won't end as well as planned. So we'll see if this claim of mine does come true. Would you have liked more of a focus following the events of last episode, or did you prefer how the episode did go? Do you feel bad for Pyrrha or Jean? Who wants to go to the dance with me? Comments, as always, are welcome down below, so go ahead, as I'll see you all next time for the next review. Peace out.